Often in games, you want to be able to configure the sound through an in-game option. And while it is easy to make a simple public void reduce volume method, it is often not that useful. We want to separate music, special effects, and other sounds from each other and change their values individually. Luckily, Unity has an easy way of doing just that. Here on our scene, we have a car which plays a honking sound and a boombox which plays music. Firstly, we want to separate the sounds from each other. To do that, we need to create an audio mixer file. Simply right-click your assets folder and select audio mixer. Audio mixer allows us to create different sound groups in our project that we can access in script and change certain values in the audio sources. Let's create two groups that name music and special effects. After creating the groups, we need to select our audio sources and assign the appropriate output group of that audio source. After properly assigning output groups, you should be able to tweak volumes of different audio types in your game. Now we need to access our audio mixer through an UI element to set the volumes in-game. To do that, let's create two sliders. Now that we have created the sliders, we need to create a sound manager script. Let's create a sound manager game object and create the manager script as a component. Inside our C# script, we need to create an audio mixer variable and a public void music volume method to attach to our sliders. From there, we need to write my mixer and set float. And for now, leave it as this, because to access an audio mixer's variables, we need to first have them exposed. To do that, select your mixer group, head to the variable you need to expose, in our case volume, and right-click to select expose variable. Head to the expose parameters and find your parameter and rename it. After exposing our parameter, we can finally access it on our script. Simply write your variable name and slider value. Now this code is fine, but because Unity's audio mixer works with decibels and decibels scale logarithmically, we actually need to scale our slider values logarithmically as well. You can simply use the log10 method for this. But make sure your sliders can't reach 0, since this will create an error. Then make sure your methods are attached to the sliders. Your methods should be visible at the Dynamic Floats tab. Now when we play the scene and change the sliders, the volume should change accordingly. However, there is a couple problems with this approach. Firstly, you might notice the music doesn't really stop playing in the background, because we aren't really stopping the audio but simply reducing the volume. Another problem we can see is that the noise particles coming from the boombox doesn't stop since they are tied to the audio source, and while I can just change the particle system script, there will be other instances where you will want to change the audio sources instead of the mixer group values. Luckily, there's a way to access audio sources from audio mixer groups. Let's return to our sound manager script. Firstly, add an onEnable event method. This method comes packaged with Unity and it's called when your script is enabled. Then, create a scene loaded event. This will only be called when a new scene is loaded. Create an audio source array. Then create a list for audio music sources and special effects music sources. Find objects of type method returns objects in a scene that are a certain type. Create a for each loop with a switch statement that checks for output audio mixer group names. Now let's create our main methods. Create a public void change music volume method. Add in a for each loop and change the audio volume property to the slightest value. Also copy paste the method, this time for special effects. This gives us a lot more flexibility on playback options. When we play the scene, we can see that our audio clips completely stop playing and we can change the volume smoothly. Now we need to make the system work between scenes. I created a different scene, but without the sound manager and without our sliders. I also added a change scene button on our UI that switches between scenes. Let's head back to our script. Call a don't destroy on load method to make sure our sound manager doesn't get destroyed between scenes. We also need to clear our music and special effect lists so we don't reference objects in a different scene. Also, we need to declare two static floats named music volume and special effects volume to make sure our settings stay the same throughout different scenes. Let's head back to our methods and add these lines. Finally, we need to call our methods every time a scene is loaded to make sure the sounds in our new scene has the correct volumes. Now that we have done that, let's play our scene. And we can see that our music values stay the same across multiple scenes. So there you have it. If you simply want to change the volume and nothing else, the first method is pretty straightforward. However, if you want to access the audio sources individually, the second method gives you a lot more flexibility on what you can do with it. That's it for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful to you and I wish you good luck on your projects.